Thanks, Bill. Good morning. It's great to be back to share the latest on Unreal Engine. Over the last few releases, the feedback we've heard most from studios is make it fast, make it stable. So we've been focused on exactly that, performance. Take 5.7. We improved performance by up to 25% on the GPU and up to 35% on the CPU, giving you smoother frame rates. Today, we're releasing Unreal Engine 5.8, which is all about building on that momentum to give you more headroom, fewer hitches, and less friction between an idea and what you can actually ship. A big part of 5.8 is maturity. Systems that were experimental or beta in previous releases are now crossing the line into production readiness. The headliner is megalights. Thousands of dynamic shadow casting lights and area lights in a scene at a fixed cost. What used to be a performance lift becomes a creative tool. Artists can light with fewer compromises, and teams can spend less time budgeting every dynamic light. Around it, LiveLink Hub, Movie Render Graph, Chaos Cloud authoring through data flow, Audio Insights, and Iris are production ready too. We also made it simpler to scale to the different platforms. Lumen, our dynamic global illumination system, now has a lightweight mode called Lumen Light, designed to preserve much of the visual impact at a significantly lower GPU cost. That makes Lumen viable where it wasn't before, including on Switch 2. And that work is already helping drive further nanite optimization efforts for the platform. Now, let's talk about something every developer in this room has felt. Yeah, the hitch, the frame spike, the long shader compile. The moment your game pauses and you wonder where all that time went. A huge part of that problem is shaders. So we've sharpened the compiler and improved deduplication to strip out redundant work. Less to compile, less to load, less getting in your way. In Fortnite, that work combined with content changes contributed to a 68% reduction in shader count. Faster cooks, faster loads, lighter memory. Jason and John's talk tomorrow goes deep on how they got there. But shaders are only half the story. The other half is pipeline state objects, or PSOs. A PSO is the bundle the GPU needs to draw an effect. Shaders, blend modes, render state, all of it. Miss one at runtime, and the driver has to assemble and compile it on the spot. That's your hitch. And those are the bugs that are notoriously hard to hunt. Luckily, we have just the guy to do it. So in 5.8, we've improved PSO pre-caching. Fallback rendering is far less visible while PSOs are still compiling. And the whole system is easier to tune, debug, and profile. These are not flashy changes, but if you've been chasing itches, you'll feel the difference the first time you boot. And we're not done. We're working with Microsoft and hardware partners on advanced shader delivery, a DirectX 12 initiative that allows us to ship pre-compiled shaders to players, moving more shader work out of the player's runtime experience. The rollout is ramping, and we'll let you know more about this soon. Now, here's a brand new experimental feature we're shipping in 5.8, mesh terrain. We wanted to move beyond the limits of height map-based landscapes where every point can only move in one direction, and the fixed grid means you can't adjust the resolution to add detail or optimize areas. Mesh terrain is a new way to author complex terrain without being locked to a height field. And it's more than just a mesh. It's partitioned for collaborative workflows, supports world partition streaming, and is designed to scale across platforms using the same source assets while tuning the runtime representation for each platform using Nanite when available. With mesh terrain, you have full 3D manipulation capabilities. Overhangs, tunnels, floating islands, shapes you simply couldn't build before. And because it's mesh-based, you can also control tessellation at the triangle level. That means adding detail exactly where it matters, while saving memory and performance where it doesn't. As you'd expect, you can paint material layers, but also additional attributes, and it supports virtual texture with automatic UV generation. Mesh Terrain uses non-destructive modifiers and procedural tooling, so iteration becomes dramatically easier. Everything can be layered, reordered, combined, and adjusted at any point in time, so you can literally move mountains. It also works natively with PCG and comes with an expanded modeling toolset. But best of all, in our ongoing Fortnite optimization efforts, Mesh Terrain has a smaller memory footprint and runs faster than Landscape. Higher quality, lighter costs, more creative and technical freedom. That's Mesh Terrain. Another big focus of 5.8 is helping you go faster from idea to result. Performance capture has matured to scale from one operator at a desk to a full mocap stage with control over every recording device on set, including video. And we're taking that further. Earlier this year, Meshcapade joined Epic, bringing world-leading technology for markerless motion capture from video. We've already started integrating it into the ecosystem, and today we are releasing the MetaHuman Animator markerless motion capture plugin on Fab. You can drive a character's body, face, and hands from regular video. No suits, no markers, video in, animation out. For animators pursuing feature quality work, this is our most significant animation release yet. We've made high-end animation workflows more interactive, more intuitive, and more connected to the creative process. From sculpting directly on stylized rigs, to controls that live on the character itself, to a simplified timeline that keeps you focused on the performance. These are the same tools our animation team uses every day, and now they're available to everyone, and we're releasing the sample with 5.8. On the cinematic side, offline depth of field gets a major upgrade. We now render the blur the way a real camera makes it, by sampling the scene from multiple points across the lens. So you get physically accurate defocus, even on translucency and thin geometry. For productions working with ultra-high resolution media, the new tiled MIPMAP video format gives you compressed video that holds up at scale. It only decodes the tiles and MIP level your viewport actually needs, so you don't pay to process pixels no one is looking at. So that's the flyby. If any of this caught your ear, you can find deep dive sessions in the Unreal Fest app. And if 5.8 is about reducing friction across the engine, there's one more place we're starting to do that: how people interact with the editor itself.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first event for VelociCode since kickoff. So one of 9, 10 more events to happen. So super excited to be here for this one. We're actually kicking it off with a familiar group to last year, our Unreal Engine of San Antonio. They helped host a couple virtual events with us last year and putting on some virtual events with us as well. So super excited to have them back. I got the same crew back. I'll introduce them in a second, but really excited to be having this starting with everybody here again. A virtual event making it a little bit easier with the San Antonio traffic, right? So, yeah, we're here today with powering up with Unreal Engine 5. That's happening today, again, with the Unreal Engine of San Antonio organization. Um, what they're going to cover today, it's a kind of a highlight. So there will be some feature updates that Rick and JP are going to cover, some simplified streamlining things, some free resources and links that he'll be able to share. I believe he'll share the PowerPoint. If not, I'll make sure to share the links. And then some cool stuff with a little demo, and then a cool, maybe a couple giveaways or one. Haven't entirely determined how that's going to happen, but we'll play that by ear, right? So excited to be giving away some stuff, excited to be talking about Unreal Engine, and excited to be continuing VelociCode this month. But meet the speakers. We have JP and Rick Canfield, or Jonathan Perry and Rick Canfield. Excited to have both of them here. Both prominent developers in their scene. They've got tons of experience at their belt. So, and they're excited to be always able to help give information out. So, Rick's pretty active in the Discord. So make sure to hit him up sometimes, and feel free to use this time to chat during this meeting to ask questions. They're totally game for it. If you got questions about what you're building right now, how to get started, what to build with things, maybe you already have a question, you're working on something, use that. So excited to introduce Rick and JP. But I did want to give a quick heads up if you're not sure what VelociCode is and you just stumbled across us on this first video, or maybe this is your first event to be joining us. VelociCode is San Antonio's month-long game jam happening. It started on July 1st, running until July 30th, with your projects due at 11:59 p.m., where you make a game, compete for prizes, and connect with a local game development community. All things are available at acmsa.org/VelociCode if you're curious on how to get started there. But it's totally free to anybody joining. Excited to be putting on this for the community, and I think we're going to kick it off and hand off. So I'm going to take it away. I'm going to bring both of them on stage. So excited to be introducing our speakers today. And let's bring this up here. I don't think JP is sharing the screen. There we go. So here's our crew. Thanks. Glad to have you, Rick and JP. How are y'all doing?
Good.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Nice. Always excited to have y'all back. So we talk about it. I just introduced y'all as like y'all are returning peoples, but like along with the Greater Game Society, y'all are our only other like game dev group here in San Antonio that's coming back for round 2. How's that make y'all feeling so far?
Feeling pretty good.
Yeah, excited to be part of it. A lot of cool stuff going on.
Nice. I know y'all are busy folks, and I love that y'all gave some time to come share with the community and share y'all's insights into what Unreal Engine has to offer. Well, I won't take too much of y'all's time. I'll hand it over to Rick, I believe, but I think it'll be a little duo presentation. So y'all ready to get started?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I will subside to the side.
Yeah, and Jonathan, if you want to hop in whenever. So yeah, this again, it's nice to be back for the second year, and I'm always all about dinosaurs. So anything with dinosaurs, video games, game jams, you name it. And plus San Antonio, love giving back to the community. If whoever got to see that intro with the new UE5.8 features, there's a lot of stuff when it comes to Unreal. So we like to kind of distill it for the community and help people try to figure out how to handle, because it's kind of a beast of an engine. But with this talk, the goal for this one is to try to focus on like streamlining, getting up to speed, especially for beginners, or even if you're like have experience or whatever your background, there's probably something that everybody can take away, or something that somebody can learn, or even just appreciate. Like, even if you weren't to develop or use the engine, I think there's some valuable stuff that could be taken from this. So powering up in UE5 is about powering up or upskilling in terms of game dev. Yeah, you already introed us, so this is also from last year, just updated. And again, Unreal Engine is a free engine until you make like about $1 million. And then that's when you have to worry about royalties.
Hey everyone, Unreal Engine 5.8 is here with a bunch of exciting new features to check out. Build larger, feature-rich worlds faster.
Go ahead and skip it because a lot of people saw that already, but we'll provide the slideshow. So if anybody wants to check out these links and videos that I have in here that I may brush over. One of the cool things about the Epic community or the Unreal Engine community is that Fab, there's kind of a love-hate relationship going on right now, but there's a lot of assets, a lot of content, and every month they provide probably a few $100s worth of assets for free to the community. In this month, these are the limited time free assets, which I highly just suggest people to go to the Fab website. Just all you have to do is add to your account, and it's part of your account. And I believe a lot of these are you get professional too. So as long as you choose like the professional, you'll get that for free, which usually tend to be more expensive for the professional license. But there's one that looks like Mos Eisley and from Star Wars. There's a really cool Slash Niagara particle effects, which has a huge selection of particle Niagara effects. And then there's this RPG template, which is kind of like a mobile game. Like it's not a traditional RPG template. It has this like they say match 3. So it's kind of like a match game where you have to match things to fight. So these kind of templates are cool because you can dissect, you can look into the blueprints and take what you need. You don't have to use exactly what's provided. And I'll start hopping into kind of the free plugins that are available. So I'm going to kind of prelude to what some of the latest are that could be useful for the game jam.
And hey, Rick, I'll pop in and say, just with Fab and the marketplace stuff, that's one of the best ways to like do rapid prototyping instead of spending a whole bunch of time up front trying to create characters and props and levels and animations and VFX and all that stuff. You can grab a ton of free stuff or really cheap stuff off the marketplace, and then just got to start prototyping and building a really simple version of your game. And then once you've got that gameplay loop and all the good mechanics, then you can start creating your own custom assets if you want to and you have time. But yeah, definitely for people who aren't familiar with Fab and the Unreal Marketplace, it's a great resource to get a bunch of cool stuff to really get up and running fast.
Yeah, and a lot of people, like in most comments on YouTube, or maybe even most discussions online, a lot of people kind of hate on the Fab Marketplace just because they enjoyed the old one so much that there's kind of this like transitionary period where people are still getting used to it. And a lot of those old features, for instance, I think the ratings were not there for a while. They brought that back again recently.
Oh, good.
Like the comments, I believe, that were part of the ratings, because that helps determine like how good are these ratings? Are they legit? There's a lot of useful stuff that now Fab has, but it takes a little getting used to. And the cool thing that wasn't available before is that it's integrated with what's called the Sketchfab. So that's kind of where the Fab. So a lot of these assets, and I'll show in a few slides down the road, that like how to find these assets that are not necessarily part of like the Unreal Engine, because Fab is not just Unreal Engine, it's also Unity. I think people like the content that comes from Sketchfab, a lot of it's just like Creative Commons.
Yeah.
So it can be used for any engine. It's not just Unreal Engine, but for our purposes, we'll be focusing on Unreal Engine. But a lot of this stuff can be used, like, especially with the licensing, is like Creative Commons. For other engines, I think a lot of the content, and we'll be providing some premium Fab assets. Some of those can also be exported, and although they need to be optimized, but they could be used in other engines too. So these plugins that I'll be kind of showing in the next few slides, these are most of them are free, I believe. Like 90% of them are free. So it's kind of like an addition to the assets that are on Fab, that there are a lot of plugins, and there's kind of a like it's like searching for treasure or loot, right? Like you're gonna get like a lot of low level stuff, and comment things, but then every now and then you'll find some really good gems amongst the mix. And it's kind of hard to find. Like, you're not really going to find it on Fab unless you're really like searching like an encyclopedia. But like, we see these things on YouTube, other reviews, Reddit. Like, there's a lot of discussions, the actual Unreal forums. Some of these kind of come up through the weeds. This one I just saw yesterday, and I know that a lot of people use the Whatabout. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Okay. So if people are familiar with this, it's like a procedural generated map maker, and a lot of people use this for like D&D or tabletop, other game engines, and it wasn't really used a lot for Unreal. But let me see if I can get that. I'm going to get back to my other tab. And where'd you go? Okay, there it is. So now there's a plugin that, if I can share this again, that allows you to use the procedural generated map maker in Unreal Engine. I'm not going to go into details. There's a whole video that covers this and goes into the detail on how to set it up and use it. But there is a plugin on Fab. Oops. And I'm not going to click. It's going to take me away from this. But it's a free plugin on Fab. Once that's installed, it's by the maker that makes PCG EX, which is kind of like an extension of the PCG system in Unreal. It's a little more advanced stuff, so I'm not going to be talking about it much, but just know it's related. And if you really want to dive into the topic, this is something I recommend exploring. But now there's a plugin that allows you to take the procedural generated content from the map maker, the Whatabout bridge, or Whatabout bridge is the Fab asset or plugin name. It'll generate the splines for it within Unreal. And you can see it in the screenshot here. Somebody's populating the buildings where the building assets are located. The streets are split up by splines. I'm not entirely sure how completely accurate, because I know it just came out probably yesterday. This is brand new, so that's why I have it at the top. But this is kind of gives an idea of like the kind of content that's out there, and the kind of content. A lot of it's open source as well, and so it's something that's really community driven. And for those who are really passionate about these things, like I think this could be really useful, in particular for the game jam, because it allows you to create, or at least visualize, what your map could look like. Because you can always replace these assets. Once you've laid this out in your level, you can go in and swap out assets. You could, if you need to, just drag a spline over where the road is. If it's if you're not able to procedurally generate, there's a lot of ways that this could be used even as a guide. So that's the Whatabout plugin. The other one that I use personally for terrain generation, which is a whole kind of other topic when it comes to like content generation and designing your levels, Gaia is like my favorite. It's kind of a freemium software, so it is free, especially as a like a community. I think it's for sure for non-commercial, and I believe students. And if you want to export like a 16K generated terrain, then I think you have to get like the pro version. But it should generate, I believe, 4K and 8K size terrains, which is still really big. Because they could go up to 256,000 or like square kilometers, and it is really big. That's massive open world games. That gets into more advanced topics. But just as a basic terrain generator, there's a lot of templates that comes with it, and there's a lot of great tutorials online. Like that's a whole other topic, but it's great because it directly plugs into Unreal, and so you can have a very realistic terrain very quickly. And then on the topic of Gaia, there is another new plugin that just came out yesterday. We're living in the golden age and a renaissance of freeware and open source. There is a plugin that just came out. It's a dev from I believe it's the Gaia team basically, and it's a plugin for Blender. So they're bringing in Gaia into Blender and generating the roads within Blender on top of the Gaia terrain. And then there's additional plugins that can be used to bring in Blender assets into Unreal, which is another topic. I put the link to our Discord where I have a lot of Blender videos and there's a lot of plugins on there for especially working between Blender and Unreal. But this one just came out too, so it looks really useful. So for anybody that wants to generate pretty realistic roads and terrain, this is one of the quickest and best quality that kind of exists, and plus it's free. And then for even more professional stuff, it would take longer and more advanced development, but it's really good right out of the box. This is another plugin that it's not exactly free, but there's a free trial. Dash is just like an intuitive interface. One of the cool things about Unreal is you can do a lot of physics-based, very realistic physics-based creation. And one of the advantages of this plugin is that you can scatter a lot of assets, basically like drawing, or you're using splines to build out maps really quickly. It's not exactly, they say you can use it for open world, but I see a lot of people using it for like diorama kind of levels, or like really high quality focused levels, which is kind of like its own thing. Because you can either go open world, where it's more quantity versus quality, or more streamlined, where it's quality instead of open world, but the trade-off is usually quality. And then I just put the price. It's relatively affordable for those who do want to use it.
Hello and welcome. Have you ever opened an Unreal scene and thought the tools panel will open up again? And if you click the list button in the top left corner, you will see a list of all the active Dash tools in the scene.
It's more intuitive than the Unreal interface. And then there's just a couple honorable mentions: Diversion and the Unreal Launcher. Diversion is a really popular source control over more traditional source control like Perforce or Git. There's also was it Git LFS, large file system. I don't know if you want to speak on this, Jonathan, but I've used Diversion. It's really easy to set up. There's some pretty good tutorials online, but in terms of creating content and not losing your data or backing up your data, it's really useful.
I haven't used Diversion yet, but having worked on some pretty big projects with lots of people, even with a small team, if you don't have some sort of a repository or source control, where if somebody's working on, let's say a map, or somebody's working on a character, and you don't have the ability to say like, hey, I'm working on this file, it's locked out, other people might start working on the same thing or make changes that somehow affect the same asset that you're working on. And so then you'll kind of run into these merge conflicts or issues where two people have made changes to the same file. And so any kind of source control or repository, especially with I don't know what you call it, like exclusive lockout or whatever, but just being able to lock a file, work on it, check it in, it'll really help prevent a lot of rework and lost work. And then also just being able to have a comment history of like who changed this and what's the comment and what did you do? And so that way, if something breaks down the road, you have some sort of an audit trail and can figure out, what needs to be fixed versus like blow it up and start over. So yeah, definitely a great resource if you can get it working.
Yeah. Do you want to mention a little more about like what it's like just working on teams in Unreal or even other engines?
Yeah, I mean, it works really great if you have something like this and everybody knows what they're supposed to be working on and is aware of. Because a lot of times when you make a change in Unreal, if there's any sort of dependencies, you change the texture and that texture is used on a character and that character is used in a map or whatever. So there's this huge chain of dependencies. And so if you make a change, you can often change multiple files. Most people had just like save all and kind of ignore all of these things that they've checked out. And a lot of times you don't actually need to check it out and save it and change it. But if you're just kind of blindly hitting save, you can inadvertently cause a lot of trouble. So yeah, this just helps keep everything organized and helps force you to be aware of the changes that you're making and what else it could impact. So yeah, it's tricky, but when you have something like this, it can work pretty well. And occasionally, you will have to tell somebody like, hey man, I need to make changes to the blueprints in that map that you've got checked out. Can you check that in for me? So it also helps you put a little pressure on people to make, kind of smaller incremental changes. So instead of holding a file for a week, you get in, make those specific changes that you need to do that allow somebody else to make their stuff, or you just get your work done and get it in, and so people can test it and see it. So it does help improve the pace of iteration.
Yeah, and I've done that. I've saved way too much. And the cool thing about source control is you can revert to a previous version.
Right. So yeah, just that ability to roll it back. Because sometimes I've actually had projects, and this is another important thing, is like sometimes something will get corrupt and it just blows everything up. And you might not realize that, this blueprint got corrupted at some point until you're further down the road, and then it's kind of just gone. And so if you have a version history or the source control, you just roll it back to when it worked and you haven't lost anything. So it can totally save you in a really major way.
Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely, like, if anybody has questions, feel free to ask us in our Discord. The other mention here is Unreal Launcher. I know, Jonathan, you may not have even heard of it, but Unreal Launcher there was it was either Unreal Forum or Reddit, but a lot of people complain about the Unreal Launcher, that it's sluggish. Even the Epic Games devs will talk trash about it. But the Unreal Launcher is like this. Somebody I think from Europe created a lightweight launcher that's supposed to streamline whether you're launching a project or launching just the engine itself. It's just like a lightweight launcher, and they've been updating it frequently. I've been testing it out. It's pretty neat. So I do recommend checking it out. And, I think it's faster. I've also tweaked my launcher itself just to I remove all the games library.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And then so it's just Unreal Engine. That tends to help. But when it comes to just launching or you're trying to open a project right away, and I'll demonstrate this shortly, or I recorded the video, but it could take some time. So this is on the note of Fab, what you were saying, Jonathan. Basically, there's all these assets. This is a screenshot I took of just searching for Fossil, which is the theme this year. And there's also a mention of Cosmos. There's some free assets on there also. But clicking on this, this is the Fab page with the search result for Fossil. And also noting you'll want to click show only the free products under price. But these are a lot of the free Fossil assets that I believe are mostly coming from Sketchfab. Because a lot of people scan things either with their phone or professionally with the LiDAR systems. I already have a few of these. There's some Quixel Megascans on here. So there's some really cool fossils on here. One of the tricky things, and I'll be demonstrating this with the template stuff. The access or the origin point is not always centered to the object, but there's ways to fix origin points within Unreal. You don't have to take it to Blender or 3ds Max or some other program to try to fix it like the old days. And the cool thing is that not only can you add it to your library from the browser, but you can also just import it directly from the site within Unreal. Like you can just search Fab within Unreal and then just add it, especially if it's not like a large, like a super large asset. And then this is a video that I uploaded, and I'll be demonstrating the templates that come within Unreal, and I'll try to speed through this a little bit. So it's a little sped ahead. Basically, for those who are not familiar, this is the Unreal Engine launcher. 5.8 is the latest, and this is what it looks like when it loads. And just fair warning, it will take a long time the first time you launch it, maybe the first time you launch a project, but when you relaunch or reload, because of the cached files, subsequent launches should be quicker. Or if you just restart, it should be a lot quicker. So this is once you open the file or the launcher, and this is 5.8. This is like there's a lot of resources for beginners, and so these are recommended if you haven't dived into a lot of beginner content. These are really great to check out. Epic has their own courses. Some of them are community based, so the community members will either community members or Epic education members will add their own content.
Hey, Rick.
So yeah,
I wanted to share. We have a question saying, "Is this only for 3D game modeling?"
so are you referring to like 2D, like side scrollers, or like just 3D platformers? Jonathan, I don't know if you can chime in on but basically, it's.
I guess
you can do more than 3D.
Yeah.
Basically.
you can do 2D games. I'm trying to remember what the tool was, like Flipbook or something. But you can do like animated sprites, and you can do some really cool stuff where, maybe you have a 3D level, but you've got the camera set up so that it looks 2D, and you can do, whether you try to get a 2D look with just like a cell shading or just an animated texture that makes it look more 2D, or if you actually want to take in, maybe a sprite sheet and you've got some sprites that you want to animate, you can do that as well. So you can go anywhere from 2D to 2.5D to 3D. So there's a lot of different ways you can use the engine. And as Rick is talking about these content examples, there's the different templates that they have, but then they have I think it's called content examples, but it's a giant template essentially that you can download, and they have examples for all the different features in the game. So they would have, here's the animated style, here's a side scroller, here's a top down, or kind of a hex based strategy game. And so those content examples are great if you want to just kind of see how they did it, or if you want to jump in there and they've already got the blueprints hooked up, they've got a lot of the functionality there. So if you want the same functionality, but you want to reskin it and have a dinosaur and fossil themed environment, you can just take out their block level or whatever's in there and just build your own levels, but you still keep a lot of the hard work that they've already done, and it already works. So that'll give you a big head start as well. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, they have also on the previous screen here that there was motion design. So they introduced motion design a few versions ago, and so that's like absolutely 2D. But there's also that hybrid where you can do 3D effects, but it's like it's a lot like After Effects, where it's that you have that 2D plane, but there's like depth. There's that Z depth to it. So it's kind of like almost like ZBrush, because ZBrush is also kind of like that, where it's like it is 3D, but you're working in like a 2.5D kind of space. So I'm going to try it. Fast forward a little bit here. There is a side scroller template, and I will be showing that. But this is just demonstrating when you open the new project and you click new project, you have all these template examples. This is all the default game templates, and of course we're focused on games for this. But the cool thing about Unreal is that there's film and video, virtual production, architecture, ArcViz, automotive, and simulation. So there's a lot of applications beyond just gaming, but gaming is definitely the most popular. And Jonathan will be showing, I guess you could say that's more like sim based with the Arduino. Like,
Yeah, it's just using Unreal to allow you to create games that aren't necessarily just using keyboards as an input device, keyboard and mouse, or a gamepad. But yeah, I'll be talking about if you wanted to build your own, giant arcade controller, or using things like temperature sensors or like laser sensors, or whatever you might want to do to if you wanted to make a escape room game and in real life and wanted to control magnetic locks with Unreal, like that's a thing that it can do. So kind of thinking outside of just the keyboard and mouse. So yeah, I'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, there's so many possibilities, and I think one of the tricks is to like figuring out where the focus is. But again, on these templates, there's variants now since 5.6. So there's Arena Shooter Survival for the first-person template. The third-person template has more, I believe, and I'll be showing these more because I think most games tend to use third-person. I do like top-down, but I feel like it's a little more complex to work with because you're working in a different perspective. VR and AR, which is also XR, and then there's also the vehicle template, which I'm not going to showcase here, but it's a lot of fun to play with. Like even just opening the template and just playing, because it has like a full, like you could run the track, and then like it kind of makes you want to build because you can build out the map and really make a fun game. But I'll be showing the third person. I'm gonna speed up.
I guess I'll jump in on that. Like,
yeah, go ahead.
It's so much fun. You could almost open any of these templates and just kind of play around in it. Like, okay, this is fun. I like this. Well, what if it might spark some ideas? So don't hesitate to jump in there and see if it sparks something. If you don't have an idea coming in.
Do you want to talk about? I know it was a different engine, but like the process when you're doing like Mass Effect cinematics. Like,
it is in Unreal.
It was in Unreal, right? UE3 or UDK?
Like, so long ago. I think it was Unreal 2 because Unreal 3 came out with.
That's right. It was Unreal.
Because I'm trying to think of what was Gears of War. Gears of War was on 3, so yeah, Gears of War came out, and there was some new game that came out, and it had the you could get the engine with it, and I was like, I gotta go get this game and play with it.
Unreal Tournament as well.
Oh man, yeah, Unreal Tournament's good. But sorry, what was your question?
I was gonna say, so like even back then, like even though it was an early rudimentary version of the engine, there was kind of this play aspect to it, like because like you had the Unreal Tournament built that came with the engine. And so like even though it's more first person based, but like you were doing cinematics, so it's like you could play around with the angles and like the lighting.
Yeah, I mean, and it was wild because it's like a whole world, and when you're playing the game, you're just seeing through your character's eyes. But you can put the camera anywhere, and I just loved having this huge library of characters and animations and sound effects and visual effects, and it was such a cool experience. And it's when we were using Unreal 2, even like Unreal 3, it's like we'd come up with this huge list of like, here's all these features we need that would make it so much easier to do what we're trying to do in terms of cinematics or gameplay or anything. And then I mean, Unreal now, it's like they're blowing my mind because it's everything we ever wanted. And back then you had to pay like whether it was like per SKU, like, okay, you got to pay for the Unreal license for these different platforms or whatever. So it's like you're paying a lot of money, and but now it's completely free. And I haven't made $1 million yet, but most people are not going to have to pay those royalties and still be able to make some really great games. So it's just incredible to me what Unreal is capable of now, and they just keep pushing bigger and better features. It blows my mind.
Yeah, and like you could tell, like I fast forward a little bit on my recording, but a lot of the things when I'm loading things, this is like real time. Like when I'm switching between the maps, the levels, a lot of it's real time, and it loads pretty quick. Of course, this is 5.8, and they've streamlined so much compared to older versions. And if anybody's working like 2.5, 2.5D graphics, that's going to be way more optimized than the more heavy duty 3D. And all this could be like 2D assets. I don't have it here, but I've worked in like Paper ZD. That's a plugin that a lot of people use for 2D or 2.5D. So this is just the basic third-party template as well. I will switch to the next one, which is the fighter. Yeah, the combat template. This one's really cool. This was pretty new. And this is what it looks like by default. It's a really close camera, and I'll show it in a little bit. I'm going to change the camera distance. But anything here, like you said, like playing, it's easy to change all these, like, you want to change the camera, you want to change the values of the life bar, even the physics. I might be streamlining over some things like the shortcuts I'm using. Control space is to open the content browser. By the way, it's one of the most important shortcuts. So every time the content browser is popping up, that's control space. I'm going to provide a shortcut list in the next slide. But here I'm going in and changing the player character, the blueprint class. So this is the player blueprint that controls the main character. And it may look intimidating at first. This is blueprints. But we're even just messing around with stuff, we don't even have to mess with the blueprints. You can just go into the viewport, and I'm just changing the camera distance. You can just move it. One of the new features is it shows how far you move it. That's a brand new feature in 5.8, which other programs have had that for a long time, but Unreal just got it. It shows how far it's moved. But you can see I saved, and the camera's further away. So it goes to show like how quickly you can get like the general vibe of like, what is your, like the framing, what is the, that's like a pretty big part of the feel of a lot of games. Like how the camera is really important. Going back to cinematics, there's a lot of really cool stuff that can be done with the camera. And I don't know if you want to talk about that, Jonathan, but I mean, this template's pretty basic, but like it can be extended pretty far. It has the AI system, which is, they come up and they try to start some stuff. They respawn a few times, and all these blueprints can be changed. And there's physics, so in the ragdoll. So when you knock out the character, there's a ragdoll effect, which is another cool thing. It has the HP bars. It also shows the status. So like attacking, idle. The AI will try to flank you, and it has a little description on that. So there's a few things like with this template, like it's really useful for getting started right away. But once you start using it, it's like, okay, I want to run. It doesn't have the run, so we're gonna have to like set up like the shift bar, for instance, and then we're gonna need the run animation. So and also the respawn system here. So there are some things like a lot of these templates will not come with, and again, these are just the basic default templates. But there's a lot of cool things that diving in, and a lot of tutorials online will show like what can be done with these. This is one of the systems that came with Lyra when the Lyra pack came out several versions ago, where they show like for level design where you can drag and resize these assets. And the door system is like its own thing. Doors are nefarious in AAA game development. It can make or break a game sometimes. Pathfinding for the AI can be subdued by door systems. Here I was just like tweaking the physics on some of these. I'm going to skip ahead for time's sake. Yeah, they like exploded when I hit them again. I don't know if there's a little delay going on here. One of the cool things with the new version of Unreal is Lumen. So as you can see, the lighting effects are very realistic, and this is real-time dynamic lighting. This is the kind of stuff we dreamed of, like not even that long ago for game design. It's like real-time. I've used it on commercial projects just because of the Lumen. I'm going to skip ahead to the another thing I was going to show is the importing assets. So right here, so Fab, again, I was mentioning Fab. The Fab plugin can be used within Unreal Engine, which is really useful. I don't think a lot of people even use it that much, but you can search directly within Unreal Engine. You don't have to go to the browser. And when you're searching within Unreal, again, fossils, you can import directly in. And so they have a 3D preview, which is really cool. This is something that also comes from the Sketchfab market. Just gotta agree to the terms. And it downloaded really fast for me because I have pretty good high speed. Another thing is you could dock the windows. You could customize your interface, whatever suits you best. In here, I was just going in to change whenever a default window opens up, instead of having it open like a brand new window, you can just have it tab over like a browser. And this is in the editor preferences, right under the main editor preferences. But once the Fab asset is downloaded, it'll create a folder. Any content you add, it'll create the folder. I like to customize the colors so I can find them easier in the content browser. A lot of the assets will not be sized correctly, but it's pretty easy to just resize. Not recommended for like optimization purposes, but just for like prototyping, you could do this. And I believe I was trying to put, I didn't do it correctly, but I was trying to put the fossil as like a hat or like turn the punching bag thing into as a fossil, so you punch the fossils. It didn't really work out that way because, as you'll see in a little bit, there's physics, and I didn't take into account the way the physics work. Oh, and I just changed the material on the texturing is a whole other topic, but it is pretty easy to change materials. But here I had a fossil in the game, but I didn't take into account the physics that came with the fossil. So instead of attaching it, which there's a way to attach it properly to the asset, it just kind of like got stuck in there. But it's cool because the physics were working, at least.
It's not too bad for a physics problem. Like I was laughing describing it because I've had problems where, you know, objects with physics are on top of each other and they just like shoot off into space.
Yeah, that is like.
But
I'm surprised it didn't do that. I was like, I guess because it's the same blueprint. It's within, like, instead of it being separate blueprints, it's like within one blueprint. But it'd be pretty good for physics. Oh,
That's
and then I was
cool.
just.
It makes
showing
it
the
really
collision.
easy to add stuff and lock it on top of each other or just attach things to each other. And yeah, it's cool.
All right, skip that. So that is the combat template, and still within the third person. This is the 3D platformer, and it has a double jump and it has wall jump. And I think those are the main things in this template: wall jump and double jump. It's a little tricky. I couldn't get this one right away, so I'm going to fast forward. This one's pretty basic, but it does have like the wall jump feature, and then it has the third person 2.5D template, which is after this. It uses the same wall jump, so it's pretty basic. And then I was like, okay, I need to add something here. So I went and I added another fossil, this time a much bigger one, and I chose the mammoth skeleton. One of the things you can see here is that the origin point is way off. It is not even close to the asset, which, whatever the 3D modelers or the guys who like scan these assets, that's one thing about the Fab marketplace is that not all assets are made equally, or they're not all prepped equally. So there tends to be some modifying involved. And I enabled static mesh editor where I probably didn't need to because modeling tools editor mode was already enabled. But basically, if you have to enable a plugin and you restart, it goes pretty quick. And maybe because I have a decent NVIDIA, but basically the modeling tools is where you can edit the origin point. And so that's under the editor modeling mode. And I have it saved as a favorite, but it's under, I believe, D form. Or no, X form. I always forget. And it can be added to favorites. But it's really easy. Once you're in the X form and under modeling mode, you just hit center to the center point of the model. That's how easy it is to fix the origin point, which is really critical for a lot of reasons. Like if you're doing like animation or pivot points, origin points, they're extremely important. Especially like level design, origin points have to be lined up so that everything lines up equally. So that was just one issue with a lot of these assets. Origin points usually need to be fixed. And again, it's a free asset, so some assembly may be required, but you're getting a free asset. Oh, and I use the N button to make it go all the way down straight to the ground. The N key is a lifesaver and I used it again here. But the other thing with a lot of these assets is that the collisions are not the best. They usually just come with a basic collision that just covers the whole model. So it's not like a complex collision where you can go through, like for instance, between the legs, the skeleton. So to fix that, there could be a better way. And Jonathan, if you know a better way, feel free to chime in, but I'm going to show the way that I use is removing the collision. And this is what the collision looks like. It's like a block. It's a really weird block, but it's super optimized. And again, to change the view mode. So for more visibility, I show the edges and then just remove the collision. And then I add basic, and this is just like a rudimentary way, basic capsule collision. If you try auto convex, it doesn't work all the time. This was just like a basic simple mesh or simple collision mesh. So I remove that, and when you have the capsules, it's all over the place. But one way is you can add multiple simplify collisions to get like a basic. Because the main thing is unless you're doing like a high-end game, you don't need the most accurate collisions, especially for like low poly. And often modelers will provide the collisions, so it's not always needed to do this. But like with a lot of free assets that are not made for game design, one of the things to do is like optimize it for games. And so what I did in this case is just use capsules for each of the legs, so at least those are blocked, and you can still go under. And I'm just going to speed through that. Easy peasy. And then I could have done a better collision for the body. I could have done 2 capsules for each of the tusks, or 4 to try to get those angles. But just for like testing purposes, this really simplified collision. And it's there's a lot of ways to just like streamline stuff, and especially for like prototyping, getting something done pretty quickly, this helps save a lot of time and to get everything in a pretty basic layout. And I'm having trouble getting back up top because I was trying to jump on top of it. And then I remembered we're in a game engine. We can create levels and platforms. And so I was just testing out the collision, which is not bad for like just kind of eyeballing, aside from the front. But again, all this can be tweaked. So that is the 3D platformer, and then I'm going to show the 2D platformer real quick. I'm not going into too much detail because there's there are a lot of cool 2D 2D tutorials and some really recommended guides, and I've posted a bunch of them on our Discord. So if anybody's interested in checking out like not just 2D platformer, but also, or like 2.5D, but also like how to use sprites and all that, Cobra is one of the good like YouTubers that has a ton of content on this, and he has some really good tutorials. And I have it posted. I don't think I have it in the slideshow, but I do have it on Discord. And I have another version of this where I put in a bunch of custom assets, and it's to get something made in this. Like you could have something within a day to have like a basic playable prototype. And go back to the tabs. So I didn't really get into the shortcuts too much, but these are a lot of the shortcuts that I use and recommend. Some of these are showcased in the recording. Feel free to take a screenshot if you want. We'll also provide the slideshow or a link to the slideshow. And these are just general tips, and there's way more tips, but these are like some that came to mind. A lot of the most commonly used parameters in the details can be added to favorites. The basic way to realistically apply props is you can simulate, and there is a link on here for those that want to download or check out the slideshow, to simulate and basically do set dressing on a level. Props can be physically placed, and that's one way that a lot of the major like games that are made in Unreal make their levels look really very realistic, because they're using physics to apply a lot of those props. There's also a way that when you're playing the game, like I was showcasing, you can eject out of the editor, make a change in the environment, save that particular object, and then go back into the game. So there's a lot of ways to dynamically both play or test the level while you're tweaking and editing at the same time. And we don't really go into UE5 on here, but UE5 kind of has that idea in place where there's a lot of play and development happening at the same time. And then just one of the big ways to optimize, because optimization is a continuous thing to focus on with Unreal. Merging objects together helps reduce draw calls. There's a lot of like balance when it comes to this, but it's just like one of these tips. And there's a link here that gives further details. And there's a really good talk from Unreal Fest last year with 101 of like some of the best tips and tricks. And we have a lot more on our Discord too. And then just quickly, I'm not going to go into the details, but there's more free, and I don't say they're like premium because they're not paid, but like these are all free. Yeah, I believe they're all free. Third-party templates that other community members have developed that are on the Fab Marketplace. And there's like one that's like a Resident Evil, like the two screenshots I show here is the first one, Resident Horror template, which is kind of like a Resident Evil inspired template. It has like zombies, it has loot, it has the interface, main menu. There's a lot of stuff that comes with it, and it's pretty extensive. The other really extensive one is a simple multiplayer survival, which is the top one. It's almost like, well, I won't show the video because I'm running a little short on time, but like I do recommend like checking these out. But it looks kind of like a mix between like Minecraft and Ark, or like it's kind of it's very playful, but it has some really cool features in it. There's another Resident Evil inspired one at the bottom, Survival Horror Project with metahumans, where they have a good implementation using metahumans. And they have both a classic and a metahuman, and they use Gasp in that, which is kind of a newer motion. They use motion matching, and it's just a more realistic motion than like classic games. But I do recommend a lot of these third-party templates. They're way more advanced than the basic ones that come with Unreal, but these are all third parties. And then again, just I'll just showcase this real quick, but this is the Gasp system. And it looks really cool. And so yeah, I'll let Jonathan take over, but we'll have the links to our Discord and all of this for y'all. Cheers.
That motion matching looks so cool. Like, it's incredible. And there's some of the stuff that you're talking about that like the motion matching, you'd have a whole team on a project working on that. Or like doors, you'd have like at least one guy who that was his whole job was like make the doors work well. And there's, you know, when you play the games where it's like, I'm trying to go through this door and it won't open, or I'm trying to open it and it slams me in the face, and it's like a source of infinite frustration, and it's hard to get it right. Like you don't realize, you know, how hard it is if you're trying to do it yourself, because, you know, a lot of games have done it very well, but yeah, it's so cool that Unreal has made these complex systems just kind of easy to use, where it's like, oh, I don't need to spend $100,000 on a team or a crazy expensive plugin or whatever it is. It's like, here it is.
Yeah, it's a lot of power, and it's like with great power comes great responsibility.
It's almost like choice paralysis. Like there's like, God, so incredible. What do I want to do? And it's, I guess it's an incredible engine, but one of the downsides is is it's so there's so much, and so to become like super proficient and an expert at anything, it's usually pretty easy to use out of the box. But you could just dig so deep into some of these systems. It's it's pretty wild, but it's like a pretty big toolbox, man. Let's see.
Yeah, like I've been using it for a while, but I think you have me beat in terms of like Unreal Engine years and miles. Like,
yeah, but it's all been in like a pretty little box of tools, and so there's stuff where I will still go through tutorials and figure out because part of leaving the industry and like like doing more of the work yourself is you kind of have to do everything, and so it's the art, the animation, the texturing, the modeling, and so Unreal's been great because it makes a lot of that fairly intuitive with a little bit of ramp up, and so I feel like I can achieve a lot and make some pretty cool stuff just as an individual. And so game jams are that perfect place where it's like how much can I do? And I don't know how many you've done, but I've done a few. They were like 24 hours. It was across 2 days because they wouldn't stay up all night, but in 2 days, what can I make? And it was pretty impressive. What people were doing with Unreal and Unity as well. But for me, it's like once you get the hang of it, it's like you can just crank stuff out pretty quick, and it looks really good and it works really well. So, so I guess I'll kind of jump into some of my stuff. See if I can shuffle these things around my desktop to share something. Stand by. All right. Hope this works. All right. Share me, Zach. So yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of my background and some stuff that I thought would be applicable here was I've done some game jams, but I've also done some really cool projects where I was working on interactive experiences for like a museum or other projects, and I'd love the idea of taking Unreal or some kind of a game and having it affect stuff that's outside of the game. So having it affect stuff outside of the game. So one example that I'll share is, if I can control this, I'm having problems here. So one of the experiences I built was this a Humvee simulator. You go on like a non-combatant evacuation operation, but they had this old Humvee shell, and we got some VR headsets and little kind of 3D printed things to put controllers in. But this Humvee, it had a bunch of like speakers and haptic units under the seats and like a fan in the front and some big hammer that would kind of strike the bottom of it to make it feel like an IED had gone off or something like that. And it just created such a cool, more realistic experience. And it was all using something similar to what I'll be talking about, which is using Unreal and Arduino or some other peripheral device to control these other things out in the real world. And another example I wanted to share was I was working on a project at the Children's Museum, and they wanted to take a game, and it was all about kind of racing across Texas, but instead of trying to get the fastest time, you'd try to be the most fuel efficient racer. And so they had this idea that, hey, we want to have these gas handles and each one is a different type of vehicle. So it could be like an electric vehicle or a hybrid vehicle or an internal combustion engine. And when a player takes one of those and they stick it into one of these slots, they're all different shapes. So they could only go in one of the slots, but we want them to use that gas handle to choose their car, and that's the car they're going to race with. And when when they plug that in, we want these motors or representations of how the vehicle is generating power, whether it be through gasoline or electricity or battery or whatever. We want those to light up and animate and do a bunch of cool things. And then there was you can't really see it here, but there was a strip of lights that went across the state, and it would show you kind of your progress, so how far you had gone. And so that was the challenge. It was like, how do I use Unreal to control all these things. So like send something from Unreal to light up these lights and power these engines, but then I also want to send something from the real world into Unreal, and whether it be these gas pump handles or there's a whole bunch of buttons and stuff. And so that was the challenge. And so I found there's a really great plugin called Serial.com, and it's it used to be called UE4 Arduino, but this is a branch of that. And I know the one that I used was in Unreal 5.3, but if you get the plugin, you can just add it in, and if you can recompile it so that it will work in some of the later versions of the engine as well. But essentially what it does is it provides these blueprints that let you access the Arduino, the serial port. So you can send stuff to the Arduino from Unreal, and then there's also stuff for inside of Unreal to be able to receive the signals that it's sending. And so part of what I think was so cool was just this idea that you can use this to do all sorts of stuff in your game. And for this, I love talking with Rick and Zach early on about a lot of people are going to make games, or make video games, but this is a game jam, and they can make any kind of game. So it could be like a board game or a tabletop game or whatever it might be. And so I thought this was a really cool opportunity to talk about how you could use this to have different controllers. So maybe it's a bunch of arcade buttons and a joystick, or different sensors. So you could have like a weight sensor, or like a potentiometer, a little knob that you're twisting, thermal sensors, or if you or make an obstacle course, or somebody has to crawl around and they trip a laser sensor, like you could send that into Unreal and have it do something. And vice versa, you could have if you achieve a win state in your game, and you have maybe it's a little box with a magnetic lock, and it's got a fossil inside, and you beat the game and it opens up that lock, and your player gets a little 3D printed fossil, or I don't know, there's all sorts of wild ideas, but it's all possible with this stuff. And so for this specific game, this one at the Children's Museum, I went on and found Cinti is a really great company that's making a lot of cool assets, and there's a ton of assets in these packs, and they're super cheap. So I bought like a farm pack and a city pack to get these cars and roads, bunch of trees, and they do have I think are they on Fab? I don't know, but I know you can go to their website.
Yeah.
It's like a $35-$40 a month subscription where you get access to everything, and it has 5 seats. So if you have multiple people on your team, you can buy a 1 month subscription to this thing and get everything and build an awesome game with it. So it made it super fast. I wanted a bunch of fast cars and cool looking stuff. So this is and this felt like a game jam type of game. It was made really quickly, and it's certainly something that can be done in the span of a month. But the general idea was, hey, I want to have a bunch of cars. The player puts their selected fuel type, the handle of that, into the slot, and then it's going to switch between these different views. Switch between these different views and show like, hey, if you drive this car, or like here's the route conditions, and here's how that car will perform in terms of fuel efficiency in those conditions. And so, as you pull these things in and out, it would switch between these different vehicles, and then it would play a cinematic of the car kind of driving through a town. And all of this was just like, take this pre-built demo map that came with these marketplace assets, and then just animate a car with the camera attached running through it. And it looked great. It played really well. Kids had a lot of fun. And then you give them kind of a rating based on how well they selected a vehicle based on the conditions. But this is essentially what I was using to test. So this is what it was needed to look like in the end. But as I'm building the game while they're building this, it's really just your Arduino plugged in. I'm using a breadboard, but I bought these little arcade buttons on Amazon for like I don't know, $5 or $10, and then just hooked a wire up. You can plug those straight into the Arduino, and then you got lights in there that you can trigger, and it detects your button press, button release. So there's a bunch of different states that you can send to Unreal, and then have Unreal do something. But then also Unreal can trigger those buttons to light up or trigger other things as well. So I thought that was just kind of a fun example of how you could use that. And ultimately, I don't need to get into that, but on the Arduino side, you're essentially I use ChatGPT to write a lot of this. So if you aren't into programming or coding, that's fine. But it's really just setting up, what pins are plugged into, or kind of what wires are plugged into what pins. You kind of set it up, initialize it. You pull in any libraries or whatever you might need to use. But there's essentially just a loop saying like, hey, have any of the states changed? Unshare my screen here. Have any of the states changed? And if so, I'm going to tell Unreal. In Unreal, it's constantly running a loop to see like, has anything changed on the Arduino? If so, I'm going to change the car. I'm going to change the camera. I'm going to set the score to whatever. So it's kind of a back and forth where they're both sending information to each other in a loop to see if anything's changed and react to that. But it looks complicated, but it's actually pretty easy to set up. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, definitely like let us know. I can send more information, but I just thought that was a cool example of a fun way to add more interactivity to a game rather than just having a mouse and keyboard as your inputs. And that could allow, if you want to have like a multiplayer game where maybe people are like racing to hit a button first, or you can buy like big arcade buttons, right? So just find a way to make it more fun and wild. There's a lot of opportunity there. So that's all I had on that. Rick, I don't know if we got a little bit of time, so we can answer questions, or I know we had talked a little bit about the iterative process and the importance of like scope management when you're planning your game. But what if we have anybody in the chat that's has anything they want to ask? Door game. We're happy to take any questions, or we can just talk about some other things to think about as you're starting your game jam journey.
How long did you work on that again?
On which one?
The car one.
So it was over several months, but it was more because it was like an iterative process where it's like I would make it, send it for feedback, and then get stuff back. But the total time spent on it was probably under a month. Plus some still like testing with once they had the actual hardware set up, like going in and making sure that everything worked, and it worked pretty well.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. Is that still set up, or is that just temporary?
Yeah, it's at the Science Mill in Johnson City. So just
nice.
Like an hour up 281.
Nice.
I was going to ask, like, how do you get projects like that? Like, is that through networking? Is that like?
It's so funny how because I don't go out and like send a bunch of cold. I probably should get like a biz dev guy to go find me some work. But this one in particular was somebody in our neighborhood. We were talking, and he's like, "Oh, so what do you do?" I was like, "Oh, this is weird, but I do game design." He's like, "Oh my gosh, like we're looking for a game designer." So it's just like total
serendipity.
Total coincidence.
Pretty cool.
So somehow that happens all the time. But.
Nice. Well, I think our only question's was that question about the 3D modeling like tools that Rick was talking about. But I did have a question. Getting into the industry, y'all, I think combined together, y'all have at least a couple decades between the both of y'all at this point, right? What do y'all see going into this new years of like, Rick talking about, a good like Renaissance era of like the AI is a little bit part of it, but then there's so many people building tools now for the existing platforms, and then JP, your like experience like in the field nowadays of like you're running into people, creating projects for them. Like, what do you see like going forward for somebody that's making new games or trying to get involved now?
It's interesting. Like I feel like a lot of the smaller indie games are blowing up. And I think people are kind of I don't know, at least the people I've been talking to are like, I'll ask them what they're playing. They're like, oh, I'm playing this like little indie game on my Switch. And it's with tools like this, it's become easier for somebody who's running a small like single man or single person or like 5-person studio to make something really incredible that can have like huge distribution. Because with Unreal, like you build your project and you just like switch between like, okay, am I shipping this on Nintendo Switch or iPhone or the and I've done like multi-platform projects and it's pretty easy. So I think a lot more focus on these like more smaller indie games, but then there's also a demand for more, I think, like interactive, almost like pop-up exhibitions and
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about the interactive stuff. You're not the only one I hear about who's in the field and they've utilized their skills to build interactive prototypes. We're in San Antonio, so military city, USA, right? And I hear a lot of people who build demos for the military, right? Like I hear the demos for the military. I hear a lot about for museums, for interactions. I hear a lot for the pop-up stuff. That's like super cool. So like you to come and show one of the examples is really neat too. And A+ on the part there. Like I love the mention of like it is for video games, but like I kind of opened it up and being like, hey, if there's physical media that you want to build a game with, like the door is open. The door joke was on purpose. So
yeah. Simulations. That's actually how I kind of got started. I did my internship at Selfless Research Institute. I think we spoke about it, Jonathan. Like this is back like 2005 when I was doing that. And I think one of their guys there was like former Pixar from like early Pixar, and they built like one of the earliest like 3D domes for the training when they're doing like refueling.
Oh yeah, like a cave, I think. Yeah,
they called it something like that. And I mean, it was big back then. Now it's all VR these days, but like back then it was a little more rudimentary, but like very similar. Like they would have loved like having this back then. Like a lot of the stuff that they dreamed about back then is like it's here now. It's just like the talent and maybe the funding as well. The funding is kind of an issue still. Like that's always an issue for a lot of government stuff. But like it's come a long ways. And like we talked about the early days of like Unreal Engine and how that's evolved, but even just like simulation, there's a lot more VR stuff that's still like VR is not like as trendy as it was, like it tends to have these trends every now and then, but people are still doing stuff in VR. I also did a project in VR in Unreal Engine 4, and it was also like a demo, like a live interactive experience. But that was
a
like
lot of the VR stuff going to VR, AR, and like the whole like Apple Vision and all that stuff, right? Like I've heard a lot of it go that direction of more like experiences and trainings more so than like video games, and it's been very interesting. Like, but I totally see it. Like I follow like car YouTubers, and they talk about like I'm gonna buy a car, and sometimes they don't even get to see it because some dude has like fabbed it in an engine, right? And they just sit in it virtually. And they're like, I'm checking out my car virtually, like, that kind of thing stuff too. So like, I don't have that kind of money. I'll be open. So I don't come to me for funding, but it's kind of cool to see like they're built as like accompaniment to tools now and like how you can experience things, right? Rather than it's like, it's all just everyone's first thought's video games, right?
Yeah. Epic has partnered with a few automotive companies like, was it Ferrari and like,
yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
it's a big one. And a few other brands. I think Audi and like there was another one. Like I think when they first showcased UE5 and the substrate, I forget the name, but another brand deal. So it's branding is a big part of it too. Like I don't think we spoke about branding as much, even in the talks we did last year. But like a lot of the stuff I've done the past 10 years, maybe a little longer. Okay, a little more like 20 years, but like a lot of it's leaned towards branding more than like simulation stuff for me. And brands, they love the product marketing, showcasing stuff. It's shifted more, like now there's more WebGL stuff. But
Yeah.
what I've done is like use Unreal to like do pre-baked stuff to put in like Babylon JS or 3JS,
Mm.
and just to like up the ante, because they do. I think Babylon has, it's like PBR based now. So, and like with, we're talking about the AI, like now with Claude 5 or Fable,
Yeah, Fable 5. Yeah.
and it looks like people are making Fable the game with Fable. And
Hey,
some
those
of these,
credit, be
with some
wary.
of the
Those credit
demos,
usage are really expensive. So
oh, I bet there was a discussion that I think somebody like, even if you just type hello, it's going to use up so many tokens. You know,
yeah,
even something
like
basic, it's just
it's
going to like
actually pretty
overthink it.
crazy. So
Yeah, but that's to also answer your question, like how it's evolving. Yeah, I do see AI assistance, but I think it's like maturing. Like a lot of the tools, a lot of these trends, like VR being used more for simulation than it is for consumer. A lot of these things are maturing in a sense where
mhm,
they're finding their fit, or they're finding like where it matches. AI is finding like, okay, here's where the applications make more sense. Here's where it's more like just trendy,
I feel that.
or or a
You know,
waste.
it's nothing but and I'm a software engineer by trade, right? Like, it's nothing more than I think a tool, right? Like I think it'll obviously upset the change in a bunch of things, but I think AI, I had a really good manager a long while ago share with me that's like everything that you're learning as a developer, an engineer, learning your skill and trade, all the things that they're giving you and all the things that are coming about today are just more tools for your toolbox, right? And you'll continue to use things like that to advance yourself, to advance your career, to advance your skills in general. And yeah, just couldn't agree more. So but nice. Well, it's been a pleasure having y'all. I know we're rounding off here at 8 o'clock. I think it's like 7:50 something right now.
Yeah.
So anything to leave with? How do they contact y'all? How do they make sure to keep up with y'all? They do have. I have some slides here in the end, but y'all do
Okay.
have another event coming up towards the end of the month. So
Yeah, we'll be talking about that soon, and we'll probably announce what we'll be doing for that. Um, Hopefully later this week, Jonathan. We can get together on that. But
Yeah.
just mentioning that we do have the Fab giveaways. I have a ton of codes to give away. So whoever's in like the ACM Discord and the Greater Gaming Discord, our Discord, we also have, there is another Texas Unreal Discord, which is like it's kind of like a mega Discord, but it's still new. So it's still in development. But like between all our Discords, we could do some giveaways for some premium
heck yeah.
codes, and for between this event and the next event, probably like, I forgot how much I said, 1,200 worth,
It was like 1,200 or something
or
roughly.
14,
Yeah.
4, yeah, it's
So in like
it's
assets, like street value assets, it's like a humble bundle,
premium,
right? And
some
that
of the
kind of stuff.
professional license as well, which is more for like bigger studios, but it's nice to have.
Exactly. And it's stuff to play with, right? So I appreciate y'all guys. I'll make sure to share everything. I'll get the slides. So if you're watching this later, the slides should be available in the YouTube description, and we'll be sharing it in the ACMSA Discord. So make sure you join and check that out. But it's been a pleasure having y'all guys. I'm going to close out and share some notes and share what's coming up next. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, y'all.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Cool. Well, it's been a pleasure having everybody here hang out with us till the end of the event. This is our first of many events happening here with VelociCode 2 here in 2026. So just rounding it out, appreciate Rick and JP for coming out and speaking. They have tons of experience to share with the community. Excited to have them coming back out with their org closer to the end of the month too. So keep an eye out for more events. And with that being said, more events is on the way. So we actually have San Antonio Mayhem coming up. It is a thing being run by our local Greater Gaming Society, and they are going to be putting on a tournament. Ansley said at kickoff that it's going to be dinosaur themed. So, like, I don't know if she's added more to it, but like an all like an all Yoshi like Smash tournament. Pretty low key or pretty low stakes. So come and hang out. We'll have some prizes, we'll have snacks, all the fun stuff. So come check us out. We just announced that the spaces at Wolfspur. Doors will be opening at 6 p.m. It is a Saturday, I believe. So make sure you check that out. Also, keeping in the theme with Greater Gaming Society, their monthly social on Tuesday is coming up. They'll be at Shenanigans again at 7 o'clock. That event usually lasts till like 9 or 9:30. Come hang out with some of the people. Come talk about what you're building for VelociCode. Come hang out with the Gaming Society. Always a fun crowd. Shenanigans is also a great place, so come check out the space. But that doesn't mean that's everything. We have so many events coming up, such as the dynamic and procedural audio and Godot with Werner. We have our playtest night, so start getting ready for that. You'll start seeing more information about how to sign up for your project for that, and more Unreal Engine events. We have a Coworks and Coffee heading towards the end, and then I'll be hosting a How to Submit to itch.io if you haven't done that before, and then just a reminder on your submissions due on the 30th at 11:59 p.m. I also want to give a special shout out to our sponsors. They've been giving us a bunch of stuff. While not, financially, they've been helping us give prizes for those of y'all that are participating. Some cool things, and they're already all shared on the website, but we have some gift cards and some giveaways to give away from Texas Roadhouse. We have some tickets to give away to the Museum. We have a bunch of keys available from boot.dev that will be given out to those who participate and submit. And we just got recently onboarded a free interview course through Interview Cake. They're actually located here in San Antonio, if you didn't know. So San Antonio-based company supporting those that are supporting the community here today. And can't always forget our community partners. Thank you to everyone that helps put on events like this and helps support events like this, whether or not virtually, in person, scheduling, managing, whatever it might be. A big thank you to you all. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for coming to our first event since kickoff. Looking forward to see y'all at the tournament. Thank y'all. Later, everybody.
Thank you.